Welcome to the 10-day growth hacking challenge with your host, Nader Sabri. Today, we're here with Ibrahim from Titanium Escrow Services, and we are here talking about his second growth hack. Before we get started today, this is all based on the growth thinking design methodology, which is used by every challenger who takes the 10-day growth hacking challenge. The 10-day growth hacking challenge is you get 10 days. You do 3 growth hacks in those 10 days to 10x the growth of your business. Today, we're here with Ibrahim. You could get more information about him below. Do feel free to reach out to him. We're talking about hack number 2. Hack number 2 is a very interesting one. I'm going to talk a little bit more about it after Ibrahim talks about it, what he's done, and some of the results that have taken place with hack number 2. Ibrahim, take the floor. Tell us what it is, the results, and some of the other details that could be very interesting for those who are listening in.
Sounds good. Thanks, Nader. So starting off, the challenge that we had was that we would have clients approach us. They want our service, and being in the financial services sector, we have to do KYC, we have to do AML, we have to prepare a contract, which it takes a certain number of hours to get this done. And we're just seeing so many people come in and saying, we need escrow. They'd agree on the commercials. We would invest hours on our side, and then we would never get paid because the idea is we only get paid when the money hits the escrow account.
Yep.
And so kind of to weed out the clients that are serious from the clients that are less serious, we agreed to do growth hack number 2, which is invoicing. So sending the clients across a small invoice, asking them to kind of essentially have a buy-in. And since we talked about this growth hack, what I've done is I've set up a Stripe account. I've done a Stripe integration with my bank account. The invoice is automated. Essentially, I just kind of plug and play. I put in the amounts, I put in the name of the client, send them the invoice. If they're serious, what we've seen is that they're happy to pay a small processing fee. If they're here just to kick tires, they end up complaining and huffing and puffing and usually just kind of walking away. So yeah, that's the growth hack in a nutshell.
So prior to this, how long did it take for you to go from like a client being interested to getting an invoice and getting paid versus now? So how much time and money have you saved by doing this? Because for many people who are listening, they're probably, well, that sounds pretty easy. A couple clicks here with integrations, which they are. That's the beauty of technology. Yeah. But what is actual from a commercial impact perspective? How much time and money has that saved you by doing that?
So essentially from the point that the client is introduced until the point that we collect our fee, it used to be about 3 weeks. Now we'll collect our first processing fee within about 3-4 days.
Wow. So at 10, more than that. Yeah, more than that.
So the processing fee, it's it'll usually be a tenth or even maybe up to about a quarter of the actual full fee. Yeah. But essentially what it's changed the most is the amount of time that we invest, basically the ROI on our time invested.
Yep.
Because again, the people that are not serious tend to kind of leave once we send them the invoice, and the ones that are serious, they put their, they pay the deposit and they end up kind of coming through. Yeah. So essentially it's allowed us to kind of filter through because the escrow world now that it's especially here in the Middle East, we have so many clear attempts at money laundering, just things that are just ridiculous. Bitcoin looks super safe compared to what some people are asking for. $1 billion in gold transactions and shady structures of just super shady stuff. And these clients, they come and they want us to prepare contracts and these guys that are looking to do $1.5 billion, as soon as we send a $1,500 invoice to them, they just disappear.
Yeah, that's shady. That's shady.
Yeah, it's all shady, but essentially this process now I can tell the clients, look, we're happy to help you, but before we get started, we need you to pay this small invoice which covers our fees. And the ones that are serious, they keep going through, and the ones that were never serious from the beginning, just kind of just disappear. So that's been a huge time saver.
Big time. Well, there's a few actually kind of micro growth hacks here that I want to point out. Number one is the qualification element. Although that sounds pretty simple. I mean, you've got this, top of the funnel situation where you've got people coming in and then you want to process all of them. But the reality is you can't. Rather than you spending time and effort actually doing that, you let them do it themselves, which has automatically worked in weeding out the crap, number one. But more importantly is those who really want to do the service. You've just made it even easier, quicker, and a lot more effective because now you can spend time troubleshooting, right? And That is really, really important. So friction, so what I call is like, if you want to get impact, right? You want to get low friction, high impact. And when I say that, I don't mean high as in highest, right? I didn't use the word highest. I used high is a big difference. So low friction, high impact, which is exactly this example here. I have a lot of clients that we work with, and I just kind of explained that to you. I have one client, live client we're working with right now, and we identified that like 80% of his process was high friction. And we managed to cut half of it in some really incredible ways. And there's a long way to go. His results almost instantaneously started to grow, like instant growth results. He was shocked. He's like, well, why were we doing it like this for so long? And I say, well, sometimes, legacy thinking, legacy systems, although they're a tech company that is quite advanced, by nature, people get lazy, and it's just how it is, right? So automation, low friction tools that they bring lower friction, obviously that's passed on to your clients, makes life way easier. So I know it sounds kind of like a small hack, right? Where you just add all these different things and you're able to qualify through invoicing and actually get it done. But the amount of impact it'll have on these kind of the ricochet effect later in your business, like especially in complex transactions where you need to spend more time actually troubleshooting and whatever that might be, right? And now you've bought yourself all this time to provide actual better service to those who are paying and qualified who want to use this service, rather than like, are you going to pay or not pay? That's a really shitty situation to be in. Those of you who are listening to this, I really encourage you to do what Ibrahim has done. Do not fear. Do not fear if 90% of the people or even more in your pipeline disappear. That 90% was wasting your time and money. Focus on that 1, 3, 4, 5% that makes you money and are ready to work with you. And that part that, or even if it's only 1%, will continuously grow if you keep that process in place. So hats off to you, man. I'm glad you did it.
Thanks, man. No, it's been a game changer now there, because essentially what these guys would do is they'd come in and say, oh, we want to see your contract, send us your contract. And then when we send them the agreement, essentially what they do is they use it for money laundering, or they use it to pool investors. They populate it on themselves and pretend that they already have this agreement in place. Being able to kind of retake control, and like you're talking about, dedicating the time, right? I mean, time is money for myself and for my team. So really being able to dedicate our time to the ones that are serious is it's night and day. It's a real game changer.
Yeah, big time. I remember like in our first call, you were talking about the complexity of transactions, and I distinctively remember that. And the first thing that goes off in the back of my mind is friction. And the amount of like manual processing for some troubleshooting. And obviously you would semi-automate and finally automate some of those things with time, but you need to get there, right? And as a growing business, every time somebody eats out of your time, that like you just don't have the time or money to focus on those that give you, who actually pay you, is a disaster, right? It's not logical, but it happens to all of us all the time. Just get it in and out and move on to the next thing. So, and I like the fact that you've just pointed out there's some liabilities that were obviously not very visible from the get-go. And this automatically solves some of the liabilities. And I bet you that there's a lot of other businesses out there. Your business is more sensitive because you're working with money. Some other businesses could be a little bit less sensitive, but there are probably elements by qualifying. You may, you probably lower some liabilities, like what you said, like I don't need to send them everything in advance. They pay, and then I can actually work with them, and I have to worry about this kind of, creating these walls. You just remove that headache. Drama gone, man. That's the key, right?
Definitely. And it's just so convincing when these guys come and say, oh yeah, we need our lawyers to take a look at the contract. Well, it's a standard contract. I mean, it's the same that you get from a bank, the same that you get from any other entity. Now that we've talked about my business model. Right now we're doing escrow. We're the first escrow company, or private escrow company in the Middle East and Africa. So right now we're doing everything manual, and the idea is to automate the back end and just bring automation in as we move along, rather than setting up kind of a mold and expecting our clients to fit into it. The idea is that we work with our clients, we do everything manually, and then we automate the back end. Eventually we automate the front end. For now, we just want to see where those friction points are to figure out how we can automate that process and streamline it.
That's awesome, because and this is another good point. I mean, this happens with a lot of my clients. I think I mentioned that in one of the calls, where we do paper prototyping. And don't let the name paper prototyping throw you off. You want to do everything actually manually in the beginning, because you don't want to replicate and scale mistakes, right? and the little tiny glitches that we can identify on paper. And of course, I use paper literally and metaphorically. Okay. So even if you're using systems, but on very simplistic levels, what that allows us to do is to avoid the replication of mistakes so that we can actually scale in the most feasible way. So in my book, my other book, actually, Ready, Set, Growth Hack. So we talk about this in the blueprint. We talk about how to scale. So scale is about not just repetition, but repetition without distortion. And distortion means it's like, as I go from like 1 client to 1 million clients, there's no decrease in quality and no decrease in consistency. If that continues like that, then you have a highly scalable business. And as long as whatever that you're doing has longevity. So even if I was able to achieve no distortion between 1 to 1 million clients, but the longevity of that scalability is only a year, then my business could be in a lot of trouble. So there's some qualifications that we use in here. We also talk about automation, semi-automation and non-automation. And that also relates to the paper prototyping. Because we talk about, paper prototype it. You can use whatever methodology. I don't promote a specific one. We use different ones with my clients. But what we do is we paper prototype that's non-automated, then we shift to semi-automated, and then finally to automation. What I find, though, is like the maximum amount of automation in a lot of businesses that will shock you is about 25%. The most of them will be semi-automated, and eventually what was the majority, which were the non-automated, become a minority, but most of it will be semi-automated processes that will help you scale. Sounds a bit what do you call it, counterintuitive, but it's the reality of how things work. Technology, as you mentioned with the example of invoicing, has played a huge role in not just lowering the cost, but giving access through low code, no code tools that are popularized across all these cloud services that we have today. And they're just really inexpensive. Like, it's just shockingly inexpensive in many cases. So yeah, man, I'm glad to hear that.
I mean, yeah, and it's expensive when you factor in the cost of kind of refining the funnel into clients that are serious and not. So I think that's what's been the most critical part of it. Again, it's kind of freeing up time for me and my team to work with the clients that need our support rather than the ones that are just doing shady business.
Yeah, wasting your time. Tire kickers, as you say.
Tire kickers, that's right. Tire kickers.
Yeah, we all got tire kickers, right?
Yeah.
It's all good. Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so that's hack number 2, which is basically streamlining invoicing, which we've just talked about, lowering the friction. Hack number 1, just as for those who want to recall what that is, you can obviously go back to the previous video. That was basically using a ranking system in the form of data to basically illustrate the landscape of the escrow services businesses, the escrow market, so that you can use it as a business development tool, number 1, and number 2, to create visibility using data about escrow services, primarily targeting those who would want escrow services, knowing where to go or what maybe intermediary service they can use to reach a service like what Ibrahim offers. To learn more, look below. Ibrahim, that is awesome. We'll see you in your last hack. I'm excited. The next one is a very important one. So I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, it's onboarding. So it's going to be quite exciting. I'm expecting some drastic changes, hopefully. I mean, I'm expecting it to really, it's going to ease a lot of those friction points that you're talking about, Nadir, because we see a lot of friction when it comes to onboarding. And I think invoicing helps solve a portion of it. And I'm looking forward to the next growth hack to further ease those pain points and get things moving a lot faster and smoother.
Perfect.
And to close more deals.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just streamlining it. So I mean, onboarding is a problem for a lot of the companies I deal with. So I look forward to that in the next hack. So please, tune into the next video. You'll check it out in a bit more detail. Ibrahim has quite a few things happening under the hood to really streamline this, especially in the B2B space. So for those of you in the kind of the B2B space, this is right down your alley. It doesn't mean it doesn't work in B2C. It does equally, but in B2B, it's a little bit more complicated. So we're going to be looking at that in a bit more detail in the next video. Ibrahim, thank you.
Thanks, Nadir. Thanks a lot, everybody, for listening in.
Awesome. We'll see you. Take care.
Bye.